from Austria. She says, Ken knows the story. Ken knows. Borderline-ish. Borderline-ish ex who devalued, then came back. I'm currently taking time and space. I want to end with strength. Should I wait until she contacts? Or does it make any difference? Ken, since you know, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, I kind of want, they might want to hear you since we've talked, they probably want the reinforcement, but I'm just saying, especially with the borderline, it's very similar to dissociative personality disorder, where there's two compulsions that they're just kind of, one's usually driving them towards the idealized person. And there are a lot of times they can thrive in pursuit of the person of their dreams. But when they actually have to start living out the happily ever after, when their pursuit's over and it's like they've kind of caught that person they idealized, then suddenly the anxiety starts to occur because they don't actually, in most cases, know how to have a long-term, emotionally healthy, mature, fully empathetic relationship. And when the future becomes now, like a lot of times what triggers a borderline is like a proposal or a wedding date or buying a house or ring shopping. So again, when it moves from being in pursuit of the person they've idealized to actually having that life and that long-term commitment, they start to get uncomfortable. And then the anxiety and compulsion starts to drive them away from you. They look for reasons. And a lot of times they'll really hand you the box of nothing reasons that I was talking about or that you mentioned earlier, where maybe we rushed into this and maybe we just got caught up in the moment. They start to future cast a lot of times. Well, what's going to happen with this? Or what about our age difference? Well, your age has been the same. Well, what about what about your kids? What about my family? What about our religion? Things that you've already had to deal with before suddenly become deal breakers. And even if you try to discuss them, if you pursue somebody who's in this state, they just get more convinced that you're the wrong fit for them. If you can walk away with strength, confidence, resilience, and re-trigger that sense that that is the person of their dreams, because you have a sense of identity, you have a sense of who you are, a lot of times that triggers the other anxiety that says, well, what if I'm losing the person that I love? What if they were the perfect person for me? What if I'm making a mistake now? So again, deep down, borderline is an identity crisis. You don't really know who they are. And they're afraid of making a mistake of certainty one way or the other. I say it like this. If there was a button that said, I'm going to be with them forever, they don't want to hit it. They don't trust themselves to know. If there's another button that says, I want to lose you forever. Now, if you make some people with it mad, they'll hit it. They'll stomp it. They'll stab it to death. But normally, they don't really want to hit that either. They can exist in the middle ground, not having to feel the anxiety of making a definite long-term decision in a relationship one way or the other. So in this situation, I normally say, look, if you're dealing with borderline and you've already chased, don't chase. It might get really painful, but give them the time, give them the distance. They'll find a way to reach out to you if they're interested, even if it's subtle, even if it's a small way to do it. Like recently, I've been talking to a guy for 4 months, and it was really difficult. But recently, his ex had her little brother reach out and send him a message to check on something that you could have easily Googled. So then I recommended, well, follow up with her and say you're reaching out to her just to check on her little brother. So he did. And they just had their first date in 4 months, just a few days ago, and they're in contact again. But normally I'd say don't go in pursuit, because you need to rebuild that sense of, hey, I want to be with you, but I don't need to be with you. That's how you get them to go from the devaluing back into the idealizing and fear that they've just lost the person that they really want to be with. So yeah, I'm sorry, I do remember. I'm sorry, he just said it's Lewis, so the spelling was off. But yeah, I know Lewis. This guy looks like, okay, this guy's a perfect example of borderline. I mean, this guy looks like a rugby model. Every time he does what I was saying, he kind of shows that strength and resilience. She comes closer. Every time he turns to her and it's like, okay, let's have our forever moment, she pulls back. So it's a very predictable but painful pattern.
Yeah, and that's where people tend to, in my opinion, look at it from one extreme or the other, in that when she comes back to you because you've shown you can stay away, doesn't mean you have to be cold. It doesn't mean that you have to, treat her as though you could take her or leave her. in terms of being rude to her or something like that. But um, a lot of times, especially in a situation of this being the guy, and she's the BPD, showing leadership. And I don't mean to where you're bossing her around. Okay, that's some cheesy, ridiculous stuff. But you can do that sometimes with certain women, guys, especially if you're able to do it a little bit playfully, because some people like that. But showing leadership in terms of just planning some things out as a way of being, really it's a thoughtful thing to do. So, for example, date night. Say, hey, we're going to go out this Friday. I'll pick you up at 7. It's going to be a great night. And she says, what are we doing? It's a surprise. Got it all planned out. Stuff like that, where you lead, but it's not from a place of I'm the general and you're the sergeant or something like that. It's from a place of simply being I'm trying to think of the right
Confident.
word, considerate, really, and really knowing the person that you're with, because some people really need that, some people don't. But usually with the situation you're talking about, you can do that and show leadership, and it works really well. Now, Ken knows more about the situation, so he could say, no, Lee, you don't understand what's going on.
No, you're
All right.
right. And
Okay.
a little example from that story, when she'd actually kind of broken up with him and it crushed him because he's an authentic, deeply loving man. I mean, he really does love her. And when he kind of stood up for himself, he found out to the extent of what she'd been hiding from him. He was suddenly strong, confident, because he values being respected. So she came back to him, like even emotionally came back to him, like, please forgive me. I can't believe I did this. And then the second he kind of softened and started speaking to her like, of course he still cares about her. And he let the anger ebb out. He walks out of the room. And by the time he comes back into the room after being gentle and loving and understanding, even after being kind of betrayed, all of a sudden she was cold again. So it was like just giving her that much reassurance within a couple of minutes. You could tell a noticeable shift in her attraction towards him.
That's frustrating. Yeah, and that's sometimes it just takes some time of where you don't discuss the relationship. You just are in the moment, and you're with her. Let's do this. I've got to do this. You're staying in the moment. You're describing what you're about to do. You're doing these things. You're having a good time with her, but you're not getting into the explanations, the details, and even kind of the lovey-dovey, stuff. And that's not forever, but it is for a time. And in that situation, some people are just that way. Not everybody's that way, but that's what I would definitely suggest there.